Nkem and Kelechi settled in a small town far from her village. They rented a modest room, and Kelechi introduced Nkem to his cousin, who owned a fabric shop. Nkem began working there, learning the trade and earning an honest living. Though the pay was small, the sense of accomplishment was immense. For the first time, Nkem was making her own decisions, free from her mother's control. Yet every night, she replayed her past in her mind. The faces of the men, the betrayal of her mother, and the whispers of the villagers haunted her. One afternoon, while Nkem was arranging fabrics in the shop, a familiar face walked in. It was Annabelle. Well, look who decided to play housewife, Annabelle sneered. I heard you ran off with that boy. How's life as a commoner? Nkem froze. Annabelle's words stung, but she steadied herself. I'm done with that life, Annabelle. It brought me nothing but pain. Annabelle laughed bitterly. Pain? You think you're better than me now? Let me tell you something. These men don't forget. One day, someone will come looking for you. Nkem's heart sank as Annabelle stormed out. The warning lingered in her mind. Annabelle's words proved prophetic. A few weeks later, a stranger appeared at the shop, asking questions about Nkem. Kelechi's cousin, suspicious of the man's intentions, sent him away, but the incident left Nkem shaken. They'll never leave me alone, she confided in Kelechi that evening. I thought I could escape, but my past keeps following me. Kelechi held her close. You can't erase the past, Nkem, but you can choose how it defines you. We'll face whatever comes together. Back in the village, Mama Nkem's life was unraveling. Without Nkem's money, she struggled to maintain the lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. Her debts piled up, and the villagers who once admired her turned against her. One day, the landlord confronted her in the market. You thought you could outsmart me? Your daughter isn't here to save you now. Humiliated, Mama Nkem returned home and wept. For the first time, she realized the full extent of the damage she had caused. Despite the looming threats, Nkem found joy in her work. She began saving her earnings, dreaming of opening her own fabric shop one day. Kelechi encouraged her, helping her sketch out plans and teaching her the basics of running a business. Their bond deepened, and Kelechi's unwavering support gave Nkem a sense of stability she had never known. One evening, as they sat under a tree, Kelechi said, You're the strongest woman I know, Nkem. I see a bright future ahead of us. For the first time, Nkem allowed herself to believe it. Nkem's newfound peace was shattered when Chief Eze appeared in town. He had tracked her down through Annabelle, furious that she had abandoned their arrangement. You think you can just walk away? He hissed. You owe me. Terrified, Nkem stood her ground. I owe you nothing. Leave me alone. Chief Eze smirked. This isn't over, Nkem. I always get what I want. Kelechi arrived moments later, and Chief Eze retreated. But the encounter left Nkem deeply shaken. Determined not to let Chief Eze control her life, Nkem sought legal advice from a local community leader. The leader, a wise and compassionate woman named Mama Nkechi, advised her to document everything and involve the police if necessary. You have the right to live your life, Nkem, Mama Nkechi said. Don't let fear hold you back. Inspired by her words, Nkem began building a case against Chief Eze, gathering evidence of his harassment. News of Nkem's stand against Chief Eze reached her village. Many were shocked by her bravery, while others criticized her for exposing such a powerful man. Mama Nkem, hearing of Nkem's actions, felt a pang of guilt. She realized that her daughter was fighting battles she had no right to demand of her. One evening, Mama Nkem arrived unannounced at Nkem's new home. She looked frail and broken, her once proud demeanor replaced by humility. Nkem, she began, tears streaming down her face, I've wronged you in so many ways. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know how sorry I am. Nkem listened silently, her emotions a whirlwind of anger and sadness. "Mama, you didn't just hurt me. You destroyed everything I believed in. But I can't carry this anger forever." In a moment of profound release, Nkem forgave her mother, though the scars of their past remained. The weight of Chief Eze's threats hung heavy on Nkem's mind, but her resolve hardened. She met with Mom and Kelechi and local authorities to report the harassment and threats. Chief Eze was powerful, but Nkem refused to let fear control her. Mama and Kelechi helped Nkem draft a formal complaint. They contacted a lawyer who had dealt with similar cases and was eager to assist. Though nervous, Nkem stood firm, determined to protect her newfound life. Kelechi, always by her side, said, "No matter what happens, you're not alone. We'll face him together." Chief Eze, furious that Nkem dared to challenge him, stormed into the fabric shop one afternoon. The shop was busy, filled with customers, but he didn't care. His voice boomed across the room as he hurled accusations. "You think you can destroy me, girl? You owe me your life." Nkem, though trembling, stood her ground. "I owe you nothing. You exploited me, and I won't let you do it again." The confrontation drew a crowd, and murmurs rippled through the town. Chief Eze, realizing he was losing control of the situation, stormed out, but the damage to his reputation was already done. Back in the village, the fallout from Nkem's actions began to ripple. Villagers who once gossiped about her now spoke of her courage. Mom and Nkem, humbled by her daughter's bravery, began to reflect on her role in Nkem's suffering. One day, she called a meeting with the village elders. With tears in her eyes, she confessed, "I pushed my daughter into a life she didn't want. I thought I was helping her, but I see now that I was wrong." The elders, moved by her sincerity, offered their support to Mom and Nkem, encouraging her to make amends. Nkem's lawyer uncovered several other women who had been exploited by Chief Eze. Their testimonies painted a picture of a man who used his wealth and influence to prey on vulnerable women. With the evidence mounting, the case gained traction. Local newspapers picked up the story, and Chief Eze's name became synonymous with scandal. Despite the progress, Nkem faced backlash from some in the community. "Why couldn't you just leave quietly?" one woman sneered. But Nkem's determination didn't waver. She knew she was fighting not just for herself, but for others like her. As the trial date approached, Nkem found allies in unexpected places. Mama and Kelechi organized a group of women to stand with her, offering moral and financial support. Even Mama and Nkem began to rally behind her daughter, attending meetings and spreading awareness about the case. Kelechi's cousin, who owned the fabric shop, offered to host a fundraiser to help with legal fees. The outpouring of support gave Nkem strength. "This is bigger than me," Nkem said one evening. "We're challenging a system that has hurt so many women." The courtroom was packed on the first day of the trial. Chief Eze, though defiant, couldn't hide his unease. Nkem took the stand, her voice steady as she recounted her experiences. The room was silent, every word cutting through the air like a blade. When the other women shared their stories, the courtroom was filled with gasps and murmurs. Chief Eze's lawyer tried to discredit them, but the evidence was overwhelming. By the end of the trial, it was clear that justice was within reach. After weeks of deliberation, the court found Chief Eze guilty of multiple charges, including exploitation and harassment. He was sentenced to several years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to his victims. Nkem's victory was celebrated across the town and even reached her village. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of peace. She had reclaimed her life and, in doing so, had inspired others to fight for theirs. With the case behind her, Nkem focused on building her business. She saved every penny, eventually opening her own fabric shop. The shop became a symbol of resilience and empowerment, attracting women from all over the region. Mom and Nkem, now a changed woman, often helped at the shop. She apologized daily for the pain she had caused, and while Nkem had forgiven her, she made it clear that trust would take time to rebuild. Nkem began mentoring young girls in the community, sharing her story and encouraging them to pursue education and independence. She partnered with Mama Kelechi to create a women's support group, providing resources and a safe space for those in need. Her efforts earned her recognition, and she was invited to speak at events across the region. Though she was hesitant at first, Kelechi encouraged her. "Your story has the power to change lives," he said. Years later, Nkem stood before a crowd in her village, addressing a group of young girls. She spoke of her journey, the pain, the mistakes, and the triumphs. Her voice was steady, her words filled with wisdom and hope. "Your worth is not determined by what others demand of you," she said. "You have the power to shape your own future." As the crowd applauded, Nkem looked out at the faces before her. She saw herself in those girls, once lost, now found. She had turned her pain into purpose, and her story into a beacon of hope. In the distance, Mama Nkem watched with pride, tears streaming down her face. Kelechi stood beside her, smiling. Nkem's journey had come full circle, and the once broken girl was now a woman who had reclaimed her power and her life. I hope you enjoyed the story. What did you learn from the story? Feel free to write it on the comment box. Remember to like and subscribe for more exciting folktale stories.